Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I'm your host and beat reporter, and I've been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we will continue to march forward to another offseason together. As always, you can always find our 100% free 24/7 boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars each and every day when you follow us on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. I am, of course, your beat reporter, John Shipley. And today I'm going to talk about something that, to me, I'm not sure if I've seen talked about much this offseason. And maybe if it has been, not talked about enough this offseason. To me, that is the fact that when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars' new regime, and I do think there is 100% a ton of reasons to be excited by it. You guys have heard me say that. I went into this offseason thinking Liam Cohen was right there with Ben Johnson as the best possible guy they could hire for this job. I've had praise for James Gladstone and many of the moves that he's made and some decisions that he's made to kind of build out the depth spots of this roster that maybe the previous regime did not look to. So I definitely have given praise to this regime. I've given praise to Executive Vice President Tony Boselli for going about things just a different way, and to me, the right way, on and off the field in his role as really the team's overall football ambassador to the program. So, to me, however, one aspect of the exciting new times with the Jaguars that just has not been maybe talked about enough has been the fact that this regime overall, I don't think can be argued, is walking into an empty pantry. There is no empty cupboard. They don't have to spend years and years rebuilding the talent. Like for me, an example of a Jaguars regime coming into an absolutely barren wasteland of a roster would be Dave Caldwell and Gus Bradley. Now, of course, Gus had his own issues as a head coach in the NFL. Dave Caldwell, to me, pretty solid GM, probably gets a worse reputation than he deserves. They simply were saddled with a roster that was years away from being years away. It was an expansion level roster. It just truly was. And then, you hit the reset again after the 2020 season where they only win one game. Then you're getting a roster that was kind of stripped down for parts. Most of the good veterans on the team, they traded away for draft picks. Other than Josh Hines-Allen, there just wasn't much on that roster to be excited about. To me, that is not the scenario the new Jaguars regime is entering. And to me, that should be one of the positives for at least perhaps knowing that the last regime was not necessarily thinking, okay, it's time to swing for the fences for our job with every single decision. And what I mean by that is, I don't think there was any point during Trent Baalke's regime as general manager where he kind of just put his head down and was like, it's over. He extended Walker Little with just a couple weeks left in the season. His last major move as Jaguars general manager. So I don't think there was a sense from either one of them, really, in my opinion, of, okay, just letting the guard down. I guess you could say really letting things kind of go to crap inside the house, inside the foundation for the Jaguars. I don't get the sense that happened for the Jaguars. So to me, a positive you can say about the previous regime is that this new one is not coming into a completely barren roster. Josh Hines-Allen has obviously been here, for several years. He predates that regime, but the last regime did give him his contract. They ensured Tyson Campbell would stay here for the long term. They ensured Trevor Lawrence would stay here for the long term. They picked Brian Thomas Jr., Buster Brown, they developed. Several of these other guys they're excited about. Brendan Strange, they drafted in the second and developed. I think when you talk about being excited about some of these options on the Jaguars roster, you have to, at least in my opinion, kind of remember where they came from. And to me, that is one positive of how Shad Khan and the Jaguars kind of went about their way with reshaping the previous front office. Is they never at any point were basically telling them, you don't have to come into work tomorrow. It's time to stop trying to improve the roster. And I think it shows. I think that the last regime did do plenty of good things. There were plenty of things, obviously, that they struggled at that the new regime now has to fix. The offensive line, the secondary, I think are the two biggest pieces of that. But certainly the last regime did do some positive things. And it just feels like it's not yet taboo to mention that, because I know kind of the stranglehold that the bulky narrative had, in the fan base, etc., the community. And I was a frequent dissenter in terms of things I disagreed with. And that's okay. It's okay that me and Trent disagreed about things. I'm a grown man, so is he. That is how things go in sports. I'm sure I am going to disagree with James Gladstone on things in the future. I disagreed with him, for example, about the De'Ami Brown move, and then they traded for Travis Hunter and completely altered the trajectory of what that looks like. But still, it is a natural thing to question what those in power are saying and doing, in my opinion. It's not a bad thing, and that comes down even to sports. It's the very basis of, to me, what journalism is, and in the world of sports journalism, that means questioning what those, executives, head coaches, etc., are doing. But I think in the years of doing that, I can also say that there are times when the previous regime did things we should respect. So, while obviously the last regime's era ended in more mistakes than positives, I do think it's important to provide the context that this new regime is not walking into the season with a completely barren roster. Should that increase the expectations? Perhaps. I think to a degree. I don't think the expectation should be, so like, for example, the expectation for that Urban Meyer roster should have been for them to win 4 to 5 games. It was a terrible roster. The expectation for the first Gus Bradley, Dave Caldwell team in 2013 should have been to win like 2 games. The expectation for this team, there's far more talent, so I think they should be expected to do more. I really think getting around 8 to 9 wins with this roster and this talent, you're adding other guys like Travis Hunter, Jordan Lewis, Patrick McCarry to it, De'Ami Brown. I think these are all factors that play into what you should expect from the Jaguars over the course of this upcoming season. That is why I think it's important to look at the context of what were they really left by the past regime. The past regime, I mean, for Brian Thomas Jr. alone, what a gift for the new Jaguars regime to have that. To have a number 1 receiver on a rookie deal, for my money, is the best bargain in the NFL right now. He is a top 10, to me, probably closer to a top 8 receiver or so. And they have him on one of the cheapest deals in football. I think 59 receivers make more annual per year value than Brian Thomas Jr. And that includes like Mac Hollins, Khalif Raymond. It includes a really just shocking list of names. So the last regime, yes, it ended in negativity. Yes, it ended with a terrible 4-13 season that will not be forgotten, forgiven, whatever you want to call it, for quite some time. But it also, on the other hand, ended with the Jaguars getting a new regime that no longer, to me, has to do things that the past new regimes have had to do, which is hope and pray that eventually you can get enough NFL talent to show why you were hired and to justify why you should stick around. That, to me, is no longer the case for the Jaguars, which to me is massive as you look at the 2025 season coming up and the potential story and narratives that can come from it. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. Please make sure you like, subscribe, follow, leave a review on all podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify when you find us at the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube at Sports Videos on SI.